and thank you for joining us for this exclusive interview with Vernice Walkine, CEO of Nassau Airport Development Company, which leads the management and operations of Lynden Pindling International Airport, also known as LPIA, in the Bahamas. So Vernice, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Holly. It's a pleasure to join you today to talk a little bit about what we're doing here at the Lynden Pindling International Airport. It's my pleasure.
So firstly, congratulations on hosting a successful Roots Americas conference, which took place in February this year. What impression do you hope your destination made on the delegates?
Well, I actually know what impression we made on the delegates because they told us that they were very, very impressed with not just the destination, but also the airport, that it was a pleasant surprise to them. I think the reason for that is generally that people know the Bahamas. They've heard of the Bahamas. For some of them, they've never been to the Bahamas, particularly those in the travel business who have not been. I think they get surprised by just how developed we are. They've heard of the Atlantis, they've heard of Bahama, but until you see it, you can't really appreciate the scope and scale of it. And so when they get here and they see that the airport is a large facility, it's commensurate with these big resorts that are here in the destination of Nassau and Paradise Island, I think it comes as a very pleasant surprise. So we were pleased to have them have that experience of learning exactly who we are, what we have to offer, that, we're in the travel and tourism business. And I mean, this is what we do. It's the main driver of our economy. We have no substitutes. So we have to do it right. We've been in this business a long time and we take it very seriously. So it was a good opportunity for us to show off the destination and the airport to airlines and travel and tourism professionals from everywhere.
Absolutely. I have to say it was a bit of a pinch me moment for myself to be able to attend the event in the Bahamas, of which, I've never been to before. So it was really a fantastic conference and also great to see the destination. Now, of course, LPIA was recently named the best airport in the region for the 2 to 5 million passenger category by ACI World. What has been key to achieving this award?
Well, I think the fact that, as I mentioned before, we know and recognize that we are in the travel and tourism business. We're extremely dependent upon tourism. We're one of the most tourism dependent countries in the entire world. And so our citizens have come to accept that tourism is everybody's business. In fact, it's a slogan that the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism uses quite effectively. So just to remind everyone, in case you forget, tourism is everybody's business. And so I think that the recognition by the airport community that everybody who comes through our facilities is a visitor to this country. We've invited them to come, and we owe it to them to treat them as we would a guest in our own home. And so with that basic sort of philosophy, I think there's a sense of pride that you might feel if you invite somebody into your home and they like your home, they compliment you on your home. You want things to work well for your guests. And so everybody pulled together to create an environment where people really enjoyed the experience at the airport. They moved through efficiently. All of the processes were straightforward, no bottlenecks, no excessive queuing. The use of technology has become very, very important. And so we're very pleased that everybody pulled together to deliver what was really a good guest experience in 2024. So we're very proud of that award, and we hope to repeat it.
And of course, your social media hashtag is No Ordinary Airport. So what does this mean to you?
Well, again, because we are so tourism dependent, we have an airport that serves a tourism destination. So my role and responsibility at this airport is to make sure that this airport meets the standard that is expected of the destination. We have some significant hotel properties here. multi-million-dollar properties that have invested heavily in ensuring that they can deliver quality resort experiences. And so we want the airport to meet that standard, to have that first impression be a good one so that there's no disappointment on arrival or departure. And so we've set a high standard, and that means that we cannot operate as an ordinary airport. We have to do some things differently, surprise people sometimes. I'll give you an example. Just this past weekend was Easter, and so we had some fun Easter activities, and I couldn't believe just how much fun people had engaging with the Easter Bunny. Okay, so it's just these little touches, I think, that make it fun. People know that they're in a resort destination, and the airport continues that feeling for them. And it's just been a good opportunity for us to galvanize the entire airport community around doing those extraordinary things. And so that hashtag really does work for us.
I love that as well. It's very memorable to be greeted by an Easter bunny in an
Mhm.
airport.
Yes. It was a lot of fun. I mean, we had grown-ups wanting to take photos with the Easter Bunny, hugging the Easter Bunny. It was really special.
Fantastic. And of course, a great passenger experience, also begins with your employees. And I know that you've just commenced a training program at your airport called the Five-Star Guest Experience Makers.
Right.
So what sort of things are your trainees learning on these courses?
Well, I think there are a couple of key points we want to communicate through the training. First of all, that our passengers are not customers, they're guests. And the difference being, you tend to think of a customer as somebody who's making a purchase, there's some transaction involved. We want our airport community to understand that everybody coming through our facilities would be a guest, and it's your guest. And this is whether they're fellow employees or arriving tourists. Everybody using our facilities is a guest. And so we want to make sure that the level of service we provide to each other is as good as the level of service we provide to our arriving or departing tourists. All guests are to be treated well. So the training is really intended to begin to change the culture of the employees at this airport. We have a community of some 3,500 people or so every day that live and work here. And so it's important for us to make sure that everybody understands their role in impacting on every guest experience. So the training is really done by an excellent facilitator who's local, but who is able, because he's local, to understand sort of the cultural sort of nuances and ways to communicate to our audiences what it means to deliver that guest experience that is outstanding, and it's been working really well. The feedback from the training has been really extremely positive. I'm so pleased. And so we're progressing very well with the training. We've had my own employees have gone through it. We've had all of the leaders of all of the stakeholder groups, they've already gone through it. And so we're now getting through their teams being trained. And so it's been working very, very well.
Sounds fantastic. So what challenges are you facing in your role as CEO?
So um, the key for me as the CEO of this airport is that I have to always try to balance growth with continuing operations, right? I mean, even as we every day have to show up and make sure all the equipment works, all the systems work, I have to be thinking about preparing for growth. Notwithstanding what is going on in the marketplace right now with so much uncertainty around the impacts of the US government tariffs and those kinds of things, and nobody really knows what impact those that will have on demand, going forward. But we've been on a trajectory where we've seen continued growth as an airport, and So much so that we are beginning to feel the tightening of our facilities, where we have our peak hours, which are typically between 11 a.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Eastern, and that's really because of our proximity to the US, where we get most of our flights from the US East Coast between 11 and 3, because they come in, they let people off, and then they turn around to get back to their banks, to fill up again. And so there's a lot of pressure on our facilities between those hours. And so we're looking at ways to expand the peak through more point to point service so that people can come in who are not dependent on the hubs, the airline hubs, that they can have. So we're looking at expanding airlift to some good markets beyond those hubs. Um, so that's important because it would alleviate the pressure on the peak, but also we're looking at how we can expand our facilities. Our facilities are relatively new. They're about 15 years old, 16 years old. But we're looking already at some expansion, how we can add more jet bridges, add more retail, more food and beverage, restroom blocks, those kinds of things. So we started on a plan to look at our next phase of redevelopment, what we're calling redevelopment 2.0, which would allow us to expand our physical footprint, but also to try to alleviate the pressure we're feeling during those peak hours, extending the peak to earlier than 11 or later than 3. And so just trying to balance what the near term to medium term future might look like with what we have to do today, finding ways to incorporate technology to allow more technology, I should say, because we have quite a bit of technology already in use, which has been so helpful, but to allow people to move more efficiently through our facilities so that they don't have to stand in line for too long. They can get through all the processes and security and whatnot, get upstairs and enjoy the food and beverage and what have you in the retail. So just trying to run that balance because again, as a tourism dependent country and an airport that serves that country, I have to be mindful always of what's happening with tourism and where the growth is coming from, when is it going to occur, and being prepared for it. So it is challenging because there's a lot of pressure to make sure that we can deliver, because we have no alternatives. Tourism is that important to us.
Of course, and you also want to be stewards of your environment. So I assume you want to try and squeeze as much extra capacity out of your existing footprint before you expand. So how far do
That's
you think, or how many extra years do you think implementing technology can buy you before you have to, lay some bricks?
So I think that, these are two things that can happen simultaneously because the use of technology will allow us to not have to overdo the expansion, to not have to overbuild. But we also didn't anticipate 15 or more years ago when these facilities were built, how quickly the passenger growth would occur. So I think that you still have to allow for for spaces for people to relax and sit and dine and what have you. So I think we recognize that much of our expansion is going to be in allowing people to have more food options, more retail options, because that's what they expect and that's what they deserve. So that's really where the expansion comes from, allowing us to give people a much better experience in our terminals. So it's not necessarily about expanding check-in halls and those kinds of things, because technology, to your point, technology will help to minimize just how much time people spend in a check-in hall. And so really the focus is on the experiences that people will have in our facilities, making those better and easier to find and to have access to. So that's
Mm,
where the focus is.
of course. And then, so I don't want to talk about challenges without talking about opportunities. What opportunities lie ahead that you are looking to capitalize on?
So one of the big things for us is, coming out of the pandemic, we recognize that as an airport, we have an opportunity to um, provide some revenue streams for ourselves that are not entirely dependent on the passenger. Going through the pandemic and having those days and weeks where there were virtually no flights coming in or going out, no revenue being generated, etc. We determined that we have additional land under our lease from the government, and so we need to find a way to use that land for some commercial undertakings. So how can we generate additional revenues well into the future that are not dependent on passengers? So we're looking at some opportunities, office buildings, food and beverage outlets, service stations, medical clinics, a mix of uses for some of the land that we have available to us here at the airport. So it's our land, what we call our landside master plan. So we developed that plan during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic. We've gotten it approved by our board. And so it's really now up to us to execute on it, to invite developers to develop this land and look at how we've segmented it according to best and highest use of that land. And so it's a very exciting opportunity for us, I think, to expand the airport to become more of an aerodrome, and not just a place for passengers to move in and out, but to provide some commercial businesses, some businesses that will serve the community, and sort of allow us to integrate ourselves more fully into the community by providing some of the necessary services that people on this end of the who live on this end of the island can avail themselves of. So we've done a lot of studies and we understand what is required and what would work. And so now the opportunity is for us to reach out and find the right people to develop the land according to that plan. So that's the big opportunity that I'm excited about.
Sounds like a very exciting future ahead, and yeah, very much look forward to hearing what kind of businesses and outlets that you end up having on your airport campus. But Vernice, it's been really interesting to talk to you and also hear about your philosophy on passenger and airport experience. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure, truly. Thank you so much.